Welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the defining moment that shape extraordinary people into who they have become. Today's guest is Dr. Khutso Madubanya, a change strategist, transformation speaker, author, and creator of the P.I.V.O.T method. She has lived and worked across 8 countries, navigated profound personal and professional upheaval, and build a body of work around one of the most universal human experience, change. The foundation of everything she teaches was forged in what she called
Tsunami.
Tsunami. Tsunami, 4 years season of destruction that tasted everything she thought she knew about herself and life. It's really a pleasure and honor to have you on the show. Good so.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Benaya.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kuso. So, Kuso, before the speaking now, before the framework, before any of the professional world you have built, who were you growing up? And what was your earlier relationship with change and uncertainty?
What a good question. Well, I grew up in South Africa. I was born and raised there. It was in the 70s and 80s. I just aged myself. And I left the country to pursue higher education when I finished high school. And so that's when my journey began around the world. And I ended up deliberately, quite intentionally, as you rightfully said, moving to 8 separate countries, and I forgot how many cities that means, or how many towns, how many villages. I just moved around a lot. So my
Yeah,
relationship with change, I was always curious, Benaya. It's like every 6 months I felt like I needed to move to a different place because I was curious about the world. When I grew up, I mentioned I grew up during apartheid. I'm not sure if your
yeah,
listeners will know what that is. But when you were a brown skinned, so called Black South African, when I was growing up, there was racial discrimination, which meant that you were only allowed to live in neighborhoods with people who spoke your language, who looked like you, right? So I finished high school just as that racial discrimination, the apartheid, was dismantling in the 90s, the mid 90s. Oh my God. I just had to see the world. It's like, what? I spent 17 years never seeing anybody that looks different than me. I seen a
yeah,
person of a difference. Well, I had seen them, but I had never related to them. It's like you see somebody on TV, or you see people with different hair, different skin color. They live in their own neighborhoods. We don't mix. So as soon as that dismantled, and I had the fortune to get a scholarship to leave the country, I just had to see the world. I had to go. So that
yeah.
explains my relationship with change. I used to say I have itchy feet because I just really wanted to explore anything that's different. That excited me. I loved different. I still do. I still love difference.
Wow,
Anything that's different, I want
amazing.
to know.
Amazing, amazing. That was really lovely. The fact that, yeah, people actually more like see moving around sometimes as a burden, but here you are more like, you see it as, yeah, just exploring and seeing differences in different places. It's amazing. So you have lived and worked in 8 countries. What first set you on the kind of international mobile life? And what did moving across culture and context for so many times teach you about identity and adaptability?
Oh gosh, you ask very good questions. What did all that moving around teach me about identity? What did I pick up? People are different, but they're the same.
Mm,
We all speak different languages, we think differently, we look different, we like different things, but our humanity is the same. All of us want to be heard, all of us want to be understood, regardless of culture. Even if you live in a very restrictive culture where you're not allowed to express yourself, right? All of us want to be seen. We really want to be seen for who we are, regardless. What does that say about identity? I feel like I skipped. You'll have to ask me again if I didn't answer all the elements of your question. But with regards to identity for me ends up being, because I'm so adaptable at
yeah.
this point. Identity, yes, there's a core of Kutso. Kutso is that I'm forever curious, have my brain cells, have my experiences, but on some level, identity is something you can, like a piece of clothing. You can wear it, you can
Yeah.
take it off. And part of the problem with identity, when we identify so much with our culture, our job, our family, is we can really restrict ourselves. We can really constrict ourselves and make it difficult for us to navigate change,
Yeah.
especially in the professional realm. You find, let's say, if you're a young person, you finished, you finished university and you were a top-notch student, right? And now you're finished. It's like, oh, what do you do? There are jobs that you need to find that can be grueling. And then you find yourself at the bottom of the totem pole, right? Now you're the entry level newbie who knows nothing, even though you were the top, top of your class. There's a whole lot of identity shifting that needs to happen as you go through change.
Yeah.
So the reason I say, to me, it's like wearing clothes. It's really, you need to have the wisdom. That's one thing I've learned, especially recently through my tsunami, and I'll get to that in a
Yeah.
minute. It's
Yeah.
so
Thank you so much.
important to be able to de-identify with whatever role or whatever persona, whatever attribute you have when it no longer serves you.
Amazing.
Very
Amazing.
important to realize, hey, I'm no longer that person I was. And that if I bring that person into this room right now, I'm going to suffer because that
Yeah.
person doesn't fit here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Amazing.
So that's what I've learned about being adaptable, about identity. And so much as all of us are human, we want to be seen, we want to be respected for who we are. But
Yeah.
let's not get too married to the identities we give ourselves at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
Whoosh. This is really lovely. Yeah. Our humanity is the same. We love to be seen, to be heard. Yeah, it's really lovely. And identity is more of putting on clothes. Like knowing when to put it off when it does no longer serve. To the key. Yeah, this is really
You
amazing.
got it. You got it.
So you describe a 4-year period we call tsunami without asking you to share more than you want. What was happening during those years? What made you feel like a tsunami rather than just a storm?
I like that. Man, you ask such good questions. And
Thank you.
and I'm happy. I'm very transparent about my journey during my tsunami because it taught me so much. That sent me off into this new career I'm in now as a change strategist and a transformational speaker and an author. I learned so much through that tsunami, and I call it a tsunami, which is a lot more than a storm, right? We all
Yeah,
know a tsunami is that big wave that is not just a normal, it's super destructive. Comes
yeah,
from the earth, earthquake. It's a big storm, if you like. It's a big wave that washes everything that life as you know it. So what happened there, Benaya, is I, you know, being somebody who has never been afraid of change, who has always craved change, I had arrived at a point where I found myself very surprisingly breaking up, getting out of a relationship. My marriage dissolved. I didn't see it coming. I didn't choose it. And there I was. I thought, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do now. I've always had fun traveling and leaving, doing different things. So I'm going to continue that. So the relationship dissolved. I picked up my 3 children, set sail, one-way ticket from South Africa to the United States. One-way ticket, right? I've never been afraid of change. And then of course it had never occurred to me that I'd need a support structure because I'd always managed to, I'd always swim with change. It didn't matter who was there. I mean, I would always make new friends and whatnot, right? So I get here, I get to the United States. Within 2 weeks, guess what happens? Just guess.
I can't even imagine. uh, I don't know. Were you homeless?
Very close, very close. I lost my
Mm.
job. Within two
Oh,
weeks of arriving in a foreign country, single parent, nobody. There's no backup. There's no support structure. It's not like you have a cousin that you can go bum, on the floor. Nobody. So here I am, get a call from my then employer. They let me know, look, COVID has really made things rough. We just can't keep you anymore. So now, here I am. As I said, my children just got to a new country. All of them are looking to me to help them acclimatize. They're trying to make friends. I'm trying to make sense. And the weather is brutal. Where I live in Michigan, I mean, we're talking middle of the winter. It's like minus 30 degrees Celsius.
Ooh.
Those kind of temperatures. A very unfurnished apartment. Remember, it's 2 weeks after we arrived here. We're living out of suitcases, right? Anyway, so that was a big shock. Rolled with the punches, did what I had to do, applied for jobs. Luckily, a few months later, I get a new job, except it's a job that I had to have, which I knew nothing about, which I hated. I had to have it. It was going to pay the bills. So inadvertently, I ended up making a career transition, a career pivot into an area I knew nothing about. I thought I knew something about it. I knew nothing about it. So now I'm navigating a brand new job. And let me hasten to explain, Benaya. This wasn't just a job that paid the bills that I hated. I had moved from, I'd run my own company before. I'd been a college professor. I'd been an economist representing my country in multilateral international meetings. This is an entry-level job. My supervisor is old enough to be my child. Very humbling. Was it paying the bills? Yes, it was. But did I feel a whole lot of conflict every morning I woke up? One, not knowing the job. Imagine with a PhD, but you can't fill out a simple invoice. This system that they use. And I'm like, what the hell? Right? Okay, so now I'm navigating this new job. I'm having to, that identity you talked about, I'm having to be like, hey, we're going to have to take off this PhD now. I'm just an entry level worker at this point who's getting paid to feed my children, and nobody has to know, right? And then another element. Within weeks of me finding this job, I get sued. This legal battle I had avoided for a whole decade. I end up now going through a grueling legal battle that I didn't call, that I didn't ask for. Now I'm having to worry about attorneys. Now I'm having to worry about this new job that I can't do, that humbles me every minute I'm awake. I'm having to acclimatize to a new country. I'm having to help my children acclimatize to a new country. And I know nobody, Benaya, nobody in the whole town. So that's the tsunami. Just for good measure, I decided, heck, this is the time. I mean, I was like 90% done with my doctorate at that point, right? I was like, you know what? I might as well just finish this thing. I'm going to finish my dissertation. So now I'm studying on top of that. So there. Are you happy? That was my tsunami.
Ooh. Yeah. That was really a whole lot. Having to kind of have different, yeah, tragic point coming into being at same time. I'm just imagining what that would be like. Which that was a lot. So most people in a crisis of that length either shut down or keep pushing through. What did you do, and what did neither of those options cost you when you tried it?
Good question. Benaya, I realized I didn't have a choice to shut down 3 children that I'm feeding on my own in a foreign country with no support network. What option do you have? What choice do you have to shut down? You don't. And so this is actually what led me to the framework I developed, what you call a P.I.V.O.T, which I call pivot. It's really an acronym, right? That that is an acronym that for exactly what I did to get through the tsunami. When I
Yeah.
realized I had zero support externally, the only support I had was internal, my mind. That's when I realized the power of my mind. That's when I realized, in fact, my mind is the only resource I could rely on. I didn't even have time to now start reaching out and crying out. I didn't have time to waste. I needed a solution at that point that could empower me minute by minute as I was going through each aspect of my days during the tsunami period, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
And truly, I mean, in retrospect, now as I was writing, I wrote a book, a couple of books. I'm an author. This book that tells about the pivot, or that explains the pivot, it's coming out in a few days. But the point I was trying to make, it's called Dancing with Change. But the point I'm trying to make is, as I was going through the tsunami and needing to find a way to either sink or
Yeah.
not, wasn't gonna sink, right? How not to sink, different things. I just started paying attention to my mind. What thoughts made me feel good, made me feel powerful, like I can do this? And what thoughts left me feeling like, oh my God, just made me feel weak and defeated. And so I leaned on those thoughts that made me feel empowered minute by minute of every day. And those thoughts, as I said, I've encapsulated in my framework pivot. P stands for pause. I realized that whenever I was thrown in times of shock, when you hear news that you don't like, our natural impulse is to react, right? Our knee jerk reaction. Yeah, we just want to fix, especially if you're a strong personality and you're used to carrying it all and carrying everybody, right? You just want to fix everything. That's exactly the wrong thing. Because what happens when in times of shock, our bodies naturally want to protect us. Blood naturally runs to our hands and our feet, our extremities, to help us run. There's no blood in your head, in your mind, in your brain. So you can't think. Just think about the last time you heard shocking news. You go into a spiral, right? It's like the last thing you can do is
Yeah.
really think straight. So pause, do nothing. By pausing, you interrupt that natural knee jerk reaction to want to react. And it's so important to interrupt it, because if you don't, you end up making decisions that are impulsive and harm you in the long run,
Yeah.
right? And so the second part, the other conversation, remember, these are all what I call a mind recalibration tool. These are just conversations you have with yourself while you're going through change, right? One, shock, pause. We're not going to do anything. Could be for a minute, could be for a few hours, could be even for a few days, a few months if it's a big one. There's no shame in
Yeah.
taking time out to regroup. Okay. I, that stands for introspect. Now it goes back to your identity question, which is a big one. We are so married to our identities that we make it really hard for ourselves to adapt to change. So we introspect on our identity in particular. What is it that who is this change requiring me to become? Who am I no longer? And let's make a decision. We're going to leave the identity that doesn't help us anymore and go with the one that helps us move forward. Did that make sense?
Yeah. It does.
So I'll give you a really good example. And I already alluded to this one. Here I am coming into this entry level position, credentialed as I am with over 20 years experience in all these senior positions, right? At that point, and I already talked about this actually, I realized part of the big misery I was feeling about this new position, in spite of it paying me, part of why this change was so painful was because I kept expecting myself to be Khutso the superpower, the grand economist, the college professor, the CEO of her own company. None of those had no longer worked. And in fact, nobody knew me. If I came there and just pretended like I was just, a kid out of college, they'd be like, oh, this is a slow kid out of college. She's a little slow, but she'll get it. It's okay. It paid the bills, right?
Yeah.
That identity that's not helping you. And then V stands for vector. And by vector, I encourage my audiences to really realize that they got this. Because part of what I realized was just the level of overwhelm I felt every morning when I thought about all the new things I needed to learn, all the new things. It's like, oh my God, I know it's basic, but I still had to learn it. Hence, it was an entry level position, right? Just the amount of novelty or the amount of new experiences, skills that you have yet to learn can be so overwhelming that that make it really hard for you to move forward with whatever is ahead of you with the new change. So cut yourself some slack. Just remember, you got this. And I say you got this because I mean you got this. I'm not in the you got this like in an inspirational kind of way. But I want you to remember you got experiences that you can employ to build the new life that is ahead of you.
Yeah.
Heck, Benaya, I ended up having to remind myself, Kutsa, can you count? All right. Well, I may not understand how this program what does invoices works down the line, but I can tell you when this program is wrong because 1 + 1 is 2 is not 5, right? And
Yeah.
I know I understand English and I can organize. Heck, I can organize my children's soccer games. I can get this team organized even though I'm not the senior person. I know how to organize. There are certain skills that are not even related to this job that I can employ to make this transition easier for myself or even possible, because otherwise the learning curve just looks too big. That
Yeah,
was B.
amazing. Yeah,
I'm glad it's resonating. And then that's V. O stands for overcome. So what are we overcoming here? What I call the suck. Overcome the fear of sucking. You know, when you knew at something, oh, you're gonna suck, you're gonna make mistakes. Benaya, let's just make a pact right now, you and me, that we're gonna forgive ourselves for all the future mistakes we're gonna make learning. We might as well make peace with it right now, even
yeah,
before new change hits us. That's something we need to remember while we're going through change. Because part of what I experienced while learning this entry level position was I was mortified. I mean, mortified, embarrassed by the kind of mistakes I would make that even, kids that were even, that nobody made, but I'd made. Because I kept myself, I expected myself to operate at this level that I was used to operating at, right? In fact, I was delegating. I wasn't the one that was going to be doing the entry level stuff, right? But then I'm doing the entry level stuff and I'm making mistakes. That's like a double, triple whammy. How can you? You are costing this company a whole lot of money and people are laughing at you. Oh, this one got me the most, Benaya. I kept thinking everybody's laughing at me. Everybody's just, I cannot believe this woman keeps making all these mistakes. And what the hell? Is she dumb? Like, what the hell? Is she slow? But it doesn't matter. You know what? I set myself free of all that judgment. The minute I remembered these people have lives, yes, maybe they're frustrated this minute. By the time it's 5 o'clock and they're going home, they won't even remember. People have lives. They got kids at home. Nobody's getting home and for the rest of their lives laughing at Khutso because she made a dumb mistake. Nobody does that. We just tend to internalize these things and just, no, nobody cares. Nobody cares as much as you do. That gave me a lot of freedom, my friend. I was like, whew, okay. It was a mistake. Brush it off, moving right along. And
yeah,
then T. T stands for travel forward. Now, what I realized here, remember, these are all conversations I'm having with myself, right? The more I kept looking back at the life I had, man, I had a great job. I was doing all these important things. I had all these fun colleagues. I was respected where I came from. The more I kept looking back and comparing that to the life I now had, the harder it was for me to adapt, to just embrace the change ahead of me. It was robbing me of energy. I felt I had such split energy. It's like, oh, but Kutso, okay, no, give it up. Give it up. You are no longer who you were back then. Whatever you had then, it's not here now. Make peace with right now and focus on making right now work. Put your energy into right now and stop comparing to who or what you had before. That's another piece that gave me great freedom. I was like, okay, fine. I'm not always going to be in this entry level position. Granted, I may not even like it, but heck, I'm going to stop torturing myself. I'm going to stop torturing myself and just be here for now. I'll work my way out somehow. This is it for now. And we're going to be damn grateful that it pays the bills.
yeah.
That's it.
That's true. Amazing, amazing. This is really lovely. The acronyms are usually the pause, introspect, vector, overcome, and travel. Yeah, it's really amazing getting to look at it from that particular light. In that seeing it through this lens, you don't owe anybody any explanation, but just living out your best life without needing to explain any and anything to anybody. But just make the most of all the time you have while forgiving yourself for the mistake you are. Yeah, it's really
That's
amazing.
right. That's
Yeah,
right. Stop torturing yourself with thoughts.
yeah.
Think
So
thoughts that make
lastly,
you happy.
yeah, thank you. So lastly, I could looking back at that season you call the tsunami, what are you most grateful about? Because of the strategy, the speaker, and the woman it made you.
What am I most grateful for, you said? Because
Yeah,
of the tsunami?
yeah,
I'm able to share what I'm sharing with you right now. And I love sharing this because I see how much it helps people. It just gave me something powerful, hopefully useful to share with the world. So I'm really grateful that it brought me to this minute where I'm able to articulate it as clearly as I can. So, yeah, that's that in a nutshell. It
Amazing.
gave me a gift. It gave me a gift that I am now proudly sharing with the world with the hope that it is making a difference for
Yeah,
anyone and everyone who is going through change, transition, and need a bit of an anchor, something to help them along.
yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Kusho. This has really been amazing. And just hearing your stories just speak a whole lot of volume. So, from our audience who would love to reach out, especially more like for your book or more like for mentorship or to ask a couple of questions, how can they reach out and where's the best platform?
Yeah, they should email straightforward info at dancewithchange.com. Dance with change is one word. Okay, info at dancewithchange.com. Or they can go also email me through my website, which is dancewithchange.com.
Yeah,
So I love
amazing.
emails. I mean, my website, sometimes things get stuck there. Email me, info at dancewithchange.com. And my book, Dancing with Change, you'll see it also on my website. You'll find a way to get on a waiting list or whatever. But
Yeah, definitely.
that's it.
The
I'd
link
love
is
to hear from you.
good to be on the show note from our audiences. Yeah, thank you so much, Akutso. Thank you for such grounded, honest, and genuine moving conversations. You're going to just remind us that tsunami does not have to destroy you. Even when it feel like it might, sometimes the wave that make everything also reveals what's or was beneath the surface. From 4 years of disruption to a framework that is helping people across the world find their footing again. Your story is a proof that change is not the enemy. That dancing with it, even with imperfectly, is always better than drowning in it. Yeah, that's really be a pleasure and honor. Have you on the
You
show.
said it so well. Very nice. Thank you, Benaya.